Baby, you don't know what you do to me. Between me and you, I feel like the street.
Aaliyah is back, y'all. Aaliyah is back.
Welcome to another edition of Coffee and Beats. Correction, that's Rod the Magnific's Coffee and Beats. And I am your musical barista, Rod the Magnificent. And today I have an excellent episode prepared for you. But before I get into that, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, hit the bell for notifications, and please don't forget to share this with your loved ones because I'm sure they will all love to hear this. Before I get into my reviews, Fashion Street Café sugar-free French vanilla syrup. You can use this on your coffee. You can get this at any of your local stores. I got this one personally from Home Goods, and I'm not sponsoring this by any means necessary, but I really love this. It's a nice addition for those who don't like all that extra saturated fat, all those preservatives, all those additives in their coffee. This is a perfect syrup for you. They come in different flavors: salted caramel, cinnamon. So feel free to get this. Again, the name of it is French Street. Now, I don't have coffee with me today, but I chose that opportunity to promote something that's coffee related. And not only can you use that on coffee, you can use that on anything, your breakfast items, French toast, pancakes, whatever the case may be. Use it. I really enjoy it, so feel free to try it out. In today's episode, I'm going to be doing a classic album review along with some recently released albums that I'm going to also get into to recommend to you today. And the name of that classic review is none other than One in a Million, as you heard me earlier vibing out to. And it's by Aaliyah. Yes, the late great artist, R&B artist, pop artist, Aaliyah. This is Aaliyah's second album following up her 1994 debut, Age Ain't Nothing But a Number. Now, I'm not going to go into why this album was so controversial. There's a lot of YouTube channels. There are a lot of documentaries that basically goes into that, takes a deep dive into that. With that first album, you saw the promise. You saw the talent. And you saw trends that she started to set back when she came into the R&B game with the baggy clothes, the boyish type demeanor that you really didn't see among female pop artists until that point. 2 years later, she ditches Mr. Kelly in a straight trade for Timbaland and a potential first round draft pick, which turned out to be Missy Elliott. And boy, what a great trade that turned out to be, because all of a sudden Aaliyah blesses us with one of the most iconic R&B albums of all time, combined with her iconic videos and a new squeaky clean image. Now, as far as the content on this album, it touches on failed relationships, more mature themes, and a few covers are supplanted into this album. Take Choosy Lovers, for example, where we see Aaliyah giving us a female touch to the already smooth Isley Brothers classic. Although not better than the original, you don't walk away feeling like she swung and missed on this one. Here, she swung for the fences, gave us a very nice track, nice mellow track with her smooth vocals, and the beat switch up at the end of that one. I mean,
Timbaland, come on.
Timbaland was in his bag on this album. Now, there are some contributions from different producers like Jermaine Dupri and Rodney Jerkins, who also made some solid B-side contributions to songs like I Got Your Back and Everything's Gonna Be Alright. Also, Tretch from Naughty by Nature also makes a contribution and gives assistance to the track A Girl Like You with a dope, hard-hitting fire beat over a classic Summer Madness sample. However, this album's strongest moments is clearly Timbaland's futuristic production, which complements Aaliyah's smooth vocals perfectly with every track on this album. As far as the creativity of this album, it is clearly ahead of its time, and many pop artists that followed this particular album, the Destiny Childs of the world, the 702s of the world, Maya, all of these artists have taken some type of element to their music that they've put out from this particular album, especially the videos. If you watch a lot of the videos, for example, One in a Million, which is by far one of my favorite dance videos of all time. I'm sure Are You That Somebody got something to say about that, but me personally, I like One in a Million. I love the colors, I love the laid back vibe that it gave. One in a Million is the song on this album that really put this album at a high plateau. Some of my favorite tracks off this album, of course, I mentioned some of the B-side tracks that I really like, but also the main tracks, of course, including If Your Girl Only Knew was actually the first single to this release. And again, Timbaland's heavy drums, the production on here is so smooth, the lyrical content is good. Ladies in the House is, again, one of my favorite songs off the album, and it's also a Ladies in the House remix, and that features Missy Elliott, and also a Hot Like Fire remix is also on here as well. 4-Page Letter, which is just again Timbaland's futuristic production, which was ahead of its time, over some smooth mellow vocals from Aaliyah, really stands out. Of course, like I mentioned earlier, Choosy Lovers is also a favorite of mine. Least favorite tracks on this album, I'm gonna say none. I mean, a lot of the B-side songs on here don't get as much attention as the songs that I mentioned, but they are just as good, and they don't throw the album off. It flows well, all the songs blend well together, even though some of these songs are produced by different producers that were sprinkled in next to Timbaland's production. You didn't see a disconnect. You didn't have a disconnect with a lot of the songs on here. So at the end of the day, I am so glad that this album is back on streaming platforms so that everyone can get a chance to really go back and listen to how ahead of its time this album really was. Definitely a great blueprint to those who are future R&B artists who wants to know how to craft an album, or to how to craft a perfect R&B album. This is the album you want to go to. All my young heads out there that's listening to Coffee and Beats, please take heed. Listen to this album. You will not be disappointed. And again, congratulations to Aaliyah's family for allowing this to be accepted. I mean, we have kept this album alive for over 20 years, and I'm so glad that this album is finally out so that everyone can really appreciate how great of an artist she was. And you know, she doesn't disappoint. She's never came out with any whack music during her time, so you'll really appreciate it. Now I'm fast forwarding back to the 2021 season. I got a few new album recommendations that I would like to get into your hands, and the first one is Cleo Sol's new album, Mother. Now, this is her second studio album, and at this point, she's better known for her work on most of Salt's projects and LPs. Now, Cleo hits us with a surprise album accompanied by a very touching album cover of her holding her newborn child. And this album is instrumentally elegant. It's lyrically soothing. This album actually feels like my mom is literally holding me in her arms and singing to me all of these lullabies and all of these.
Baby, it's gonna be okay. I got you. I'm here to protect you, honey. No one's gonna treat you bad.
It almost brought me to tears when I was listening to some of the songs and how touching the lyricism is on this album. And Cleo Sol is one of those artists that upon first look, you might look at her and say, oh, she comes across as a typical pop R&B artist. But her voice is so commanding. It's so powerful. And it captures your attention. I really appreciate the jazziness of her vocals. Now, there's a lot of combinations of jazzy instrumentals along with some neo soul type production. Almost puts you in the mind of a Mama's Gun album from Erykah Badu. Also has kind of like a Dwelly type feel to it, where it's really laid back. I really enjoyed this album in every shape and form. Some of my favorite songs on this album, some that you can keep in mind, take note of, add to your playlist: Don't Let Me Fall, Build Me Up, Sunshine, Don't Let It Go to Your Head, which has a nice, elegant guitar riff, and also 23, which is by far one of my favorite songs of the year. This is just so groovy. It's a very smooth track. Do yourself a favor and listen to this album. I give this one a 9 out of 10. Cleo Sol continues to knock it out the park with great songwriting, mesmerizing vocals, and solid production. Definitely worth the listen. Up next, we got Amaria with her debut album, Bittersweet. Now, I got put onto this album in my discovered category in my Spotify account, and I just stumbled across this particular. They recommended one song on there. It was a song that she did with Mick Jenkins, and even though I wasn't too crazy about Mick Jenkins' feature on this, I really was intrigued by her performance on that track, and I was also loving the production, which led me to look more deeper and see if she had any albums. And boom, this was actually one of the songs off her new recently released album. I must say, this is a pretty good listen. Whisper music done the right way without it sounding redundant. Give this album a listen. It's relatively easy to listen to. It's brief and to the point. A few songs that I will also suggest that you add on as instant playlist add-ons is Lose Control, Think About, Work, Friend Zone, and also Roses. But even though it's a very short listen, it's whisper R&B at its finest. I really like her voice. I really like the production on this album. I give this one a 8 out of 10. Please go check it out. It's an excellent debut from Amaria. Up next, we got Kunzite with the album Visuals, and Kunzite is an electronic duo which consists of two producers, Mike Stroud and Augustine White. And hopefully I said that right. And here we get a very upbeat effort from Kunzite to paint a nice picture of what to expect from this project if you haven't heard of this particular duo. Think of Tame Impala if they were to make a dance record and had Rat-a-tat, who used to work with Kid Cudi back in the day, was the producer, with a little sprinkle of Neon Indian in there. You'll get this particular project. And this album is a dope listen. Although the track list can get a little repetitive at times, you won't walk away feeling disappointed from this effort. And by the way, check out the music video to their first single off this album, Lemon Ways. It is absolutely hilarious. It's got this old man like doing the Cabbage Patch and dancing and pop locking and stuff like that. You are going to absolutely love that video. It is hilarious. It brought me life, I know that. And I think this album also brought me life, and it's a very good listen. I give this one a 7.5 out of 10. Last but not least, we got Disclosure, who dropped a surprise EP over the weekend as of this recording. Never Enough. And I must say, what more can I say about Disclosure at this point? They stay consistent. Every song on this EP hits different. Dope techno house vibes with very well placed samples and mesmerizing sounds all throughout this track list. Absolutely no skips on this one. I guarantee it. You are going to like this one. It's definitely a pop and play. Play this one in your whips and just let this one ride. Please give it a listen. I do not rate EPs, but this one is excellent. Check it out. And that will do it for today's episode of Rod the Magnific's Coffee and Beats. I am your musical barista, Rod the Magnificent. Check out the podcast. I have just downloaded a bonus episode, a side episode of a review with the Vibes and Stuff podcast host Ian, and we just reviewed Abstract Mind State's new album, so check that out as well. Also, if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do yourself a favor, subscribe, like, hit that bell, share, tell everybody, tell a friend that Coffee and Beats is on YouTube. And also follow the Instagram as well at Rod the Magnificent Coffee and Beats. So with all that being said, I'm your musical barista, Rod the Magnificent. And again, when it comes to music and when it comes to coffee, stay grounded for life. I will see you on the next one.